Hi there, everybody. Happy Sunday. I can't believe it's the weekend already. I've actually recorded this show about a week and a half in advance. I'm sorry for that. I hope it's still relevant now. I think it probably will be from the time when I recorded it, but I'm away for the weekend. I'm up at a convention in Seattle this weekend, but I did still want you all to have a video to watch and to discuss. So here goes. I'd like to talk to you today about businesses that use electric vehicles as part of their day-to-day business life and use of public charging infrastructure by those same businesses. And I want to try and answer a really thorny question. Should businesses that use electric vehicles instead of internal combustion engine vehicles have access to and use public charging infrastructure, especially when that public charging infrastructure is already under quite a lot of strain in some areas because of the uptick in electric vehicle adoption? There are two different sides to this. Obviously, the first side is that a business, just like a private user, wants to use a technology that is coming to the fore, a technology that is lower carbon emission, that is really super efficient to use, that is clean, that is quiet, and costs less to run a vehicle on that fuel than an internal combustion engine vehicle would. And so the cost benefits for a fleet operator or a small business are just as compelling, if not more compelling, than they would be for a private owner. And so we're starting to see businesses where electric vehicles are either part of the fleet or all of the fleet going out and using public charging infrastructure. Now, once in a while, I don't have a problem with businesses just like they would use a petrol station to fill up with fossil fuels. I have a problem with them using electric charging infrastructure, especially if they have to pay for that electric charging infrastructure. They have to pay for the electricity they use. They have to pay for the time at the charging station. And there are alternatives for other people to use. Back when I used to live in the UK, there was a taxi company that got into quite a bit of trouble because it was using the then free charging network along major motorways to charge their cars up during the day. And they didn't have to pay for it. They were effectively getting free electricity and still benefiting from that in their business. Now, in that case, I feel that it's very unfair. You shouldn't be charging someone for a service like a taxi service when the cost of fueling your vehicle is essentially being underwritten by somebody who's not in your business. That seems a little unfair, especially if the purpose of those charging stations is for private customers. And I think in that situation, it's not cool and it's not on. In situations where you have businesses traveling long distances occasionally, like maybe going outside of a service area once in a while, or occasionally discovering that their daily range is just a little bit shorter than they need to drive, then by all means, charging up at a public charging station, provided that they are timely about their use, provided that they pay for the electricity they use, and provided they don't block the charging station after they finish charging, I have no problem at all with that because that's considerate. And that's the same kind of behavior that you'd expect at a petrol station when filling with fossil fuels. And that logic can be transferred to electric vehicle charging infrastructure very easily. The problem we have is when you get companies that operate electric vehicles whose drivers don't understand the technology, or they don't understand the etiquette, or frankly, they don't care about the etiquette, and you end up with cars waiting at supercharger stations. You get cars waiting at public charging stations. Sometimes the cars are finished charging, you can't unplug them. It's a minor issue, but it's one I'd like some input from you all on. Now, if you're owning and operating a business and you've got a fleet of electric vehicles, the majority of fleet operators do the right thing and they do install charging infrastructure at their base, whether that be a headquarters, head office, a depot somewhere. They will install charging stations, and when the cars come in at the end of their workday, they'll be plugged in overnight and charged. If it's a larger fleet operator, or it's a fleet operator where the vehicles are going to be returning to base during the day, you may also see charging stations implemented. I know, for example, that there are a couple of taxi companies in the UK that use Nissan Leafs, and they actually have their own private dedicated rapid charging stations installed at their offices, so that when drivers come back between trips, they can plug in and charge ready for the next fare. And that seems just normal and fair. But some companies are taking advantage. Not very many, but some of them are. Now, how would you like to structure this? Because it does seem unfair if we apply the petrol station logic to say, if you are operating a commercial service, you cannot use private charging stations. And that creates an animosity, I think, and a frustration, and it makes it very unclear where the lines are, who is operating a business, who isn't. Is somebody who is a self-employed contractor, for example, are they allowed to use a charging station if they're using it for business purposes, when there's somebody waiting to use it for their own personal transport? So it seems that I feel the answer to all of this is not to stop one person from charging and give priority to someone else, but instead to talk to charging companies and go, okay, we've clearly got demand. We've clearly got more people coming online who want to use these charging stations. We need more charging stations. I mean, if you think about it, if there were 10 charging stations at every place that had a charging unit, then we wouldn't necessarily have these problems, these angry posts of people complaining about taxi companies or delivery services hogging the charging stations, or worse still, making use of free public charging to then benefit their company. What would you like to do? How would you solve the problem? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, support us on Patreon. And I will be back on Tuesday with another video. There will be a video tomorrow, fingers crossed, but it won't be a live one or a live produced one because I'm going to be driving back tomorrow from Seattle. So I will be back in the studio as normal on Tuesday. I hope your week gets off to a fantastic start. And as always, keep evolving.